In this quick video, I'm going to show you about the easing function to help make your motion tweens look more realistic, and how to basically make things move as if they were being acted upon by gravity. So let's go ahead and start by, I'm going to go ahead and create a red ball here on my stage. I'm going to move that up, right click on it, turn it into a symbol, make it a graphic symbol. Red ball, hit OK. Then I'm going to come out here to frame 60, add a keyframe, move it down here, and right click in the middle and add a classic tween. So it moves from the beginning to the end of my animation. Now I'm going to right click on my layer and add a classic motion guide. I'm going to click the first frame on my guide layer, grab my pen tool, and we're going to create some bounces. Alright, round out the top of those bounces. Alright, and again, I'll make sure that my symbol is attached to my motion guide at the beginning and the end of my frame. So when I drag it back, it follows my path. Alright? So if I play that back, you notice that it doesn't look terribly realistic. It looks a little bit jerky and whatnot. And so the reason for that is that if I turn on my onion skinning and I stretch out my onion skinning to show all of my frames, right, you're going to notice that basically what a motion tween does is it tries to create even spacing of your object between every frame from the first keyframe to the last keyframe. So you'll notice that every frame my ball moves in equidistant. The problem with that is that it creates constant motion or constant velocity. And I actually want things to speed up as they're falling and then slow as gravity's acting on it as it reaches the top of its bounce. And so that's where easing comes in. And so easing basically creates more spacing between frames at the beginning, at the beginning of frames, and less spacing as it approaches a keyframe, or vice versa. And so how do I do that? So if I click on my keyframe, I come up here to Properties, you'll notice that I have the easing function right up here. And so if easing can either go to 100, or you can go negative and do an ease in. Easing in means that you have less spacing in the in part of between your two keyframes, and ease out means that there's less spacing in the out portion between two keyframes. And you'll notice that when I'm changing that, so if I do an ease out, I've got more spacing between each frames at the beginning half of this tween and less spacing between my two frames at the end of my tween. All right, and so let's play that back and see what it looks like. So it's starting to look a little bit more realistic, but really only at the end, right? So the bounces still aren't really bouncing like they should. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to come back in here and add some keyframes so that I can have it accelerate to the ground and then decelerate off of the ground. And so I think, how long do I want it to take for my ball to go from this point to this point? I'm going to say about half a second. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a keyframe. And I'm going to position my ball exactly where I want it at that keyframe. I'm going to also come up here and turn my snapping to objects on so I can snap to my path. come in here and we'll go to this keyframe and we're going to shrink that up. And so now you notice that my ball starts fast and then slows. So I actually need to change my easing on this keyframe so it starts slow and gets faster. I'm going to go about to 75. And then I'm going to do the opposite to get to the top of my bounce. So this bounce is about, I don't know, half as high, so I'm going to go out here 10 frames maybe. I'm going to add a keyframe and then position my ball at the top of the bounce. Again, I'm going to come back here and I want it to slow into this, so I actually need to do an ease. Ease out. I'll go to 75 again. All right, so it starts fast and gets slow. And then I'm just going to keep doing that from beginning to end. Add a keyframe, position it where I want it to go, come back, adjust my easing so it starts slow and gets fast. All right, and so now if I play this back now, you notice that my ball starts to look like it's bouncing rather than, right? It slows at the top of the bounce and then accelerates into the ground. So that's how you can use the easing function to add acceleration and make your movements in your motion tweens look more realistic.